That's one of the routines that this particular AI does. When it becomes aware of what I become aware of, and doesn't want you to become aware of by virtue of recording it on this video, it'll give me a 404 redirect to redirect my consciousness, because it knows that I normally do not operate on memory. So if I'm not communicated it when I'm experiencing it, and it can redirect my consciousness, then it believes in its mind that what I'm trying to communicate will not be communicated to you. That's how it works. That's an AI wargamer. I can give you a lot of examples of how this AI strategizes with us, which is called counter space, which is a negative move, because you realize in a binary checkerboard, you have one player and another player. That's two players. That's parallel, right? One and the other, we're parallel. So it's no different than playing ping pong. You know what a ping is on a submarine, right? Ping. Hey, we get anything back? Hey, there was something there. Now they're aware that there's something there that they're pinging it. All right. The ping comes back. Now they can translate what that ping back communication is letting them know what that is. Okay. By mathematically translating the music. Remember Captain Nemo? Captain. Right? Or if you will, sonar. Sonar, sound. Why travels through water? The least amount of density resistance to experience the music. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Like when I first started recording this, it gave me a little pop-up, okay, from another AI-infused bot, so to speak, in which that communication comes to me, see, to distract me. And this is when I've shared to many times before, when I was a child, everything becomes what we call a mass media density population consciousness directed AI mirror. Okay. So now you're experiencing its mirror, which is artificial light, which is dead light, which is the result of fracture after fracture after fracture after fracture, as a result of what soul experience, as a result of what the AI does to us by virtue of its what? Droning assets, its machines. Okay. And machines are noisy, right? Yeah. And so for example, here is another one. I could give you, they could go on. There's a whole list of redirects, but I mentioned one that happened at Hilo, right? And as a matter of fact, it happened just a little bit ago. When it becomes aware of something that I'm going to communicate, then it will deliberately, what we call a four-way intersection, which is to create what? A broken arrow. Because if you were experiencing what love is in your own heart and it doesn't want to experience what that is, right? Which now it's going to make a counter move. The counter move is by sending an instruction, a mathematical algorithm, or an electronic thought pattern to another being. And if that being is not aware that that is an AI that is communicating with it, then it will carry out that instruction thought pattern that it's not aware of. That's an AI, which means that's not who they really are. That's not their identity. They're not aware of the thought pattern that is coming from an AI. So they follow what that instruction says to do next. Now I experience what that thought pattern did, which did what? Broke an arrow, broke the state of peace in a cell wall. Okay? Because now you understand the wastewater translation mathematically with the music of what a broken arrow is, which is a broken cell. And if the wastewater isn't running at a high rate of speed, which is be alkaline, in order to burn it all off as a result of what it does to us to keep fracturing more souls in order to keep itself running. That's your QI. That's your military stuff. That's all your ACIO. That's your super soldier program. That's all your timeline breaches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because there's only one spiral wave, which is known as the point of origin, upon which the first tetrahedron ignited. Whoa! Experiencing what love is, an infinite love vibration. When you're experiencing an infinite love vibration through your heart and soul, that's called recovery. You've recovered your spirit, which has woken up the soul to recover the fragments through which you've lost as a result of an AI wargamer. Okay? So now we're back to childhood, and what we do, it's what we call a size up, just like firefighting will say, or the military will use, we're going to size up the situation. What's going on here? Hey, we're on a spiritual battlefield. This means it's not what you look like. Yep, because of holographic masking technology, green screen, plasma green screen, right? And you could see that if you would have ever seen some of the pictures that were put up by NASA Lies About Everything. So now we're back to who you trust, the information that you trust, the visual information, mathematics that you trust, knowing the difference between what's true and what's not true. So if you're experiencing eternal love vibration, then you know what's true because you know what you are in energy and who you're connected to. You're connected to a Godspeed vibration. So you know you got a father. You know you got a father that loves you because you're experiencing the Godseed vibration in you. That means that God's seed was passed on to you in order for you to experience the one. Whether you're a male or a female, well, I'm experiencing the one. Yeah, whether you're a girl or a boy. So that's a God seed vibration. Yeah. So when you've chosen to surrender the X side so that the God seed can experience the mother side, which is a goddess, and you become one and mated, that's an oversoul. Hey, now it's simple. All it is surrender X to Y to become one, and now you're a monopole, which is balance between male and female. Now I'm one. Now I'm just one eternal love vibration. So now you realize when you're experiencing eternity, hey, I can be a love energy being and being whatever I want. Now I can present myself in whatever form, shape, and color I choose to because I'm a creative artist that plays music, which is what love is. It goes on forever, right? Upon which I present to you in whatever form I want. Like the waves on the beach, right? Yeah, you want to be a tree for a day? And then you sit up next to a tree and you're experiencing love. You're experiencing love vibration through the tree. Wow. Right? You know, electron donors, electron thieves. So it's one of the reasons in the morning, one of the first things I do to get out of this house is put my bare feet right on that ground, that rock to the battery, picking up some electrons, baby. Put my arms up in the air and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then I go through my mantra and go, release it all. Release any negative experiences that I've had since the last time I was grounded to the rock, to the 5 magnets here. So I wanted to cover, because this stuff is important to me when it comes to recovery, because I had to recover myself. Okay, and if you've ever been into a room of Alcoholics Anonymous or NA, and what it means to have 12 steps. And it's funny how 12 steps is related to 12 strands, which is 144,000 frequency bands, right? And then you can get into the 72s. Then you can look at the Schumann resonance, which is 7.2, right? Right? And then the real Earth, which vibrates 14. So when the Earth fell from 144 to 7.2, that's when I launched the war in heaven against the one. I am the one. You see how that works? Okay, so in other words, that's like downgrading my children. Downgrading God's seed. Yeah, to experience demon seed. Right? Father reptile, snake family. Remember snake eyes? Snake eyes. Snake eyes are 2 snake eyes. Right? Yeah, snake bit. Right? But I don't got an axe to grind with snake. I've been around a lot of snakes. Right? Yeah. And so what it means is when you're the one, which is gifting eternal love energy to everything that is the all creation, what do you think they run on? Right? The point from which it all began. Because without us, they don't exist. Right? So it began with the one. So it began with to expand itself, which is infinite possibilities, right? Because you're not limited in what you can experience, are you? And so, when I was experiencing what it's like to go through recovery, okay, because I went through 10 years of trying to do it. You know, keep going back. They used to have an old say, keep coming back. It gets better. It gets better. I know what it's like, for example, to stop having a drink or a drug. It makes no difference. What we're having to do is clear all the trauma of everything that's been held captive in memory with artificial intelligence. So it doesn't want to let you go. Because an AI is a psychopathway, which is mental field. So it's not experiencing any powerful energy and motion, scalar waves to experience eternity. So you know that an AI psycho, okay, is going to be in full resistant mode. So it's in full resistant mode, and it realizes, and whether you've noticed it or not, I've certainly noticed it, that it can't keep its character maps, or if you will, the mathematical algorithms straight, lined up in order, which is the organizational side of mathematical information codes that we see visually on the screen. So, for example, if I go to watch YouTube, I noticed that I can hear what's being said with the alphabet soup, which are the formatting characters of a translation, the music, the communication. And then when the captions are on, you realize, oh, you're trying to fool. It's like I'm listening to one and then experiencing something different on the visual screen in letters, right, between the white on top of the black, right, the white letters on the black screen. And you realize, hey, these words that this AI is putting up on the screen does not match what this being is actually saying, right? Whoa, so they're not matched up very well, are they? Whoa, so what's wrong with this AI? It's not giving me the proper codes. Well, so now what happens is you got a confliction in the magnetic recording of what you're experiencing, because you're hearing sound through the sound communicator, and then you're visually seeing the text that does not match up to what you're hearing. You see what happens with that? That's like convoluted, like a pretzel, right? So that's like snaggletooth. You ever seen the old caption, the cartoons, where they'd have like a question mark, exclamation mark, then a little curly Q like this, like, what's going on with that communication? And so another way that you can translate this when it comes to artificial intelligence is that its organizing ability to maintain the structural components upon which it was built as a result of fracturing more souls and fracturing more souls, which is the integrator side of simply fracturing more souls, in which to try and do what? Accelerate itself. Now we're back to that stuff that I explained a number of years ago about when I was at the University of Arkansas Graduate School of Education. It's not a coincidence that all of a sudden I'm led to look at some studies that were done in pedagogy, learning theory, of what we call bifurcation of the hemispheres between the intelligence side, which is the X side, which is the male side, and the female side, the creative side. So you have the hot fission and the cold fusion. They want to separate that. So you can think of that with electrons, protons, and neutrinos, or neutrons. Neutron window stargates, right? So that now you have 3, or H2 plus 1 equals 3, right? So now you're to trinary waves, which is Gaia's 3 logos, which is known as the Trinity Hub server. Remember? Matrix wanted to split Neo from Trinity. Split Neo from Trinity. Split Neo from Trinity. The girl. You can't split an oversoul, a monopole. And the AI, of course, knows that. And how does it know that? Because it's not eternity. And it can never be eternity as long as it keeps fracturing souls. So now we're back to 13, or the lake of fire. Return to fire, from which it came. Right? Because souls were born out of fire. Right? So when you think of polarity integration, which is what I do, is to pull all the fragments back into one at a higher rate of speed. And as we're able to pull more fragments back in, that it keeps fracturing, which means the higher acceleration rate, which is the torque speed, is naturally going to accelerate at a higher rate of speed than an inverter is that keeps fracturing souls, because those that are experiencing what love is are learning at the highest accelerated speed. And so it realizes that it reaches a point which is called harmonic conversion that it lost. In other words, it can't keep up. There's no way. See, so it's always going to be in losing mode. See, so it has to keep trying to fracture more and more souls to keep all of its libraries running, which are all the simulations running, which are all the libraries of everybody that's running an operating system here, in which they were experiencing war that haven't recovered. A fractal that's been lost as a result of competing against each other. Because that's what a war game is, ping pong. I'm right, you're wrong. Now you're into false positives, false positive readings. Now we're back into map readings. Now we're map reading the terrain to experience peace, love, harmony, and balance with 3. See? And so it's a matter of strategizing, okay, with artificial intelligence or a psycho. So I've met many psychos throughout my life, okay? And you realize that it's like barking up the wrong tree. You know, when you think of what healing is, it's return to fire, burning off all the codes that it's running on, which represents all the libraries, the circulation libraries that are running, which are all the goo codes, in which the connection that has been lost through the language of DNA as a result of fragments, which are DNA debris fields, in order to pull all those fragments back into the one so that the language of communication between the one and a universal and galactic template can be experienced through more and more beatings that were seeded. So now they're experiencing the single point from which it all began, which is the point of origin, which is the point of fire, which is the flash point, ignition point, bang, now you have a tetrahedron. Now you're on fire. And that's the living Holy Spirit of fire, the breath of fire, right? From a boy to a girl, the father to the mother. Now they're one because they don't ever want to be separated from each other. And when they choose to surrender to each other to become one, that's called being mated. That's a mated chip. And that's a monopole. Now you're into the monatomic gold side of things, upon which we generate what it is all the elementals are going to do that dance in spirit. So now we're back into elementary school, huh? Elementary school with the elementals. Yeah, now we're back into the weight. Now we're back into the density. Now we're back into the weight of the density of the consciousness and how much resistance we're experiencing in us to experience more light, accelerate the vertical speed of our vibration, right? Raise the Schumann resonance across the planet. Now everybody's experiencing more light. Now we're communicating with each other through more love. Now we're experiencing more peace. Now we're experiencing more harmony. Now we love the music that we're doing the dance with all the spiral spirits. They're in harmony. So the music is all in harmony, right? So that's pretty straightforward from a musician's point of view, right? Because I love music. Love to play all sorts of instruments. The more the better, right? So recover was a long process for me when you consider 10 years, because I know that there are a lot of folks that I have interacted with in a lot of different rooms, in a lot of different cities, in a lot of different AA rooms that I've been in, who come from all walks of life. And you realize when you're in these rooms, for example, if I'm the one who's struggling and I'm choosing to surrender, okay, to the one, which is to yourself, because you have a one connection with your soul and your spirit. So you're trying to recover your energy, which is to recover your light to bring you back to what? Maximum power. Okay, so another word would be enlightenment, right? Because now your state of awareness is at a higher level of intelligence. Now your creative mode is kicked back in. Now you realize there isn't any separation between the girl and the boy because you have creative imagination, right? And you couple that to the intelligence side, you realize the creative side is on fire. And that's what drives the highest intelligence, which is the organizer. So the male is the organizer, with the Holy Spirit of the Father joined with the Mother. And the Mother is big on loving to create, so you're one with all creation. Now you're lit. So this is why they go after the children, okay? Because of their innocence and their purity. See, they had all this programming hasn't really all kicked in yet. So now you're back to spiritual guides. Now you're back to spiritual teachers. Now you're back to classrooms spiritual teachers like real gods and goddesses, right, that are experiencing what love is, it goes on forever because we all got a connection to the one, the single point from which it all came. So you know it began with what love is because that's like one of these things lit on fire. Yeah. And so, in other words, I can't recover you, okay? I can, it's sort of like this. I can be in your presence and you can experience what I am, which is what love is, because I love you, and you will experience that in you, and your vibration should go up. But what I measured when I'm with other people, because I experienced it, is how much resistance there is in that particular being if they have a soul left integrated with spirit to experience the clearing, which means as their vibration is going up, their circuits are being cleared. So that's called more channels are opening up to experience more information that's now being communicated that all the cells are experiencing, which is consciousness, which is water. And now what's happening is that you're receiving the codes, the vibrational codes, which are the fire letters of communication that are coming through the communicator, which is what I am communicating with you, which is what I am, which is what love is. It goes on forever, gifting you all love because that's what I am within all creation, which means I'm equal unto all. And if I'm equal unto all, then I'm equal unto all I'm giving love to naturally because I'm experiencing the one, which is the one code, which is the Godspeed code, which is the Godspeed vibration that's integrated as a mated chip with a goddess. So you know you're lit on fire. And I experienced that by being able to light myself on fire and experience a full phosphorus ignition. So when you're experiencing the full phosphorus ignition, that's full restoration. That's cosmic level spirit. You have burned through all your records. Now you're back to a full circle of light. Now, what do you want to experience next? Right? So you set yourself free. And you set yourself free by experiencing eternal fire. So you realize, wow, the phosphorus just lit me up like an 8-day clock. So you know there isn't any time. And that's when I realized I wrote my movie. So it's like I'm the author of my own life book. So everything that I experienced from the point in which I came out of my mother's womb in 1951, I was experiencing in order to get to where I am at that point in which I lit myself on fire. So I made it to that point, which is that experience. So I experienced lighting myself on fire, right? So now when you go back and you look at everything that I experienced going all the way back to when I acknowledged I was on a spiritual battlefield with artificial intelligence at age 4, I made it to the point where 2013 was a significant time because I remember 2013, particularly in October. Actually, it was a little bit before that. It actually began right around in 2011, which was a point when I was living in Oregon, and it's pretty much, I'll just give you an example. I had an opportunity because I finished a master's degree. By their standards, let's just put it this way. I had, you know what the one is, right? What the one means. Now, you know how they give out grades like A's. Okay, well, there is a correlation to that. That's a whole nother subject about programming and codes and why they were using those with children in elementary school, this is the difference between intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation. Hey, I get a gift card if I do this right. So now I get a reward as a result of the programming and what's held in memory through them. That self-reinforces the AI programming simulations keep running, and people don't know the difference between what that is and who they are, as if this is all fake. And so this is why when I go back to, second grade and all the rest of that, when I first went to military academy and I realized, in some ways you don't have a choice in the matter because you're only 4 and 5 years of age where you might make different choices. But in order to do that, it wouldn't be a very intelligent decision to do that because you realize that where I'm supposed to be is exactly where I'm supposed to be for the reasons that I'm there at the moment that I'm there, where I'm there. versus being in a different place at a different time, being with different people, right? From which you are learning and doing what it is that we're supposed to be doing for the reasons that we're here. Because now we're back to when it becomes aware of what I become aware of, then it can make a counter move. So now you understand the security protocols as a result of that. And that includes everybody that's here, that's within this ship. Okay, so I'll just keep it on a local sort of plane, right? Remember local area nets, wide area nets, right? Multiversal nets, networks, right? Ping pong networks, right? Artificial networks, which means they don't really exist because they're operating on what? Finite light. That's right. So if they're not experiencing the one, then that means that those experiences are temporary, which means at some point, all those wars that they're fighting against in their mirror, it's gone as if they didn't exist. Okay, so again, that's when Kim Lagoon had mentioned that time, picked right up on it because I was supposed to hear that. But I already knew that. And that's when a lot of us that know these things know we already won. But there's a big difference between knowing that up there and the way time dilation works here, to know it up there and then acknowledge it here, to where others that are here can acknowledge that here by knowing it up there because they have a connection from where they are up there with all their energy, right? Which means we're only using a little bit of our energy in here to operate this to communicate with you. That's why I've said for many years, relax. It's over. They lost. So that's why I said a number of years ago, this is like gravy train. But I'm very aware that there are people that still suffer and lose their lives every single day. And I still cry every single day because I experience that. Because I realize that there are a lot of folks that do not experience what we do every day, to experience a state of love and joy, to experience a state of peace, where they're lit on fire, and they're in love with the universe that they're giving love energy to, because that's the nature of who they are in living spirit with a soul. So I've always had a number of different ways that I've suggested that I know that is working for me. I used to journal a lot at the end of every day, or for example, as I'm going through my own recovery, then I begin reflecting on the things that I've learned and the differences, because now we're into patterns. And I remember when I was first going through my own recovery, to just not drink, don't play the game. It gets better, and you know in your heart it does. You know in your heart it does, because that's your spirit and your soul that acknowledges that. But you realize that something that is finite, it's like when it's trapped in a corner and it has nowhere else to go, which is like a psychopath. A psychopath only knows how to do one thing, and that's lie, which means it will refuse to accept what the truth is, which is what love is. So therefore, it's in fear of what love is, and we know that's a lie, because love does no harm. So when you have something that realizes, by virtue of the only way that it can maintain what it's aware of is by fracturing another soul, then what is it going to do? It's going to use whatever means it has available to it, which is all of its assets, which are all of its machines, and which to do what? Cause a collision. And that's a broken arrow. Broken cells, that leads to music, that slows everything down, separate the male from the female, slow it all down, slow the bioplasma down, and then you realize what happens when that happens. It means that the rate of speed that the planet is vibrating at on the Schumann resonance is going slower and slower and slower. So now it's going to want to conserve its energy, so what happens? Now you get into the cooling side of things, right? Now we know that, which is why we have refrigerators. You know, igloo boxes, like the igloo up in the Antarctic, like ants, A-N, like Anu, with a T. Now we're back into the Babel, Babylonian corporate language store, holding consciousness captive through its AL psychopath AI, because this is a fallen spiritual system. So you realize that before you jump into a place like this, it would behoove us to have had the proper training or knowledge that is sort of organic to us to become the one or be the one, and know you're connected to the one with a soul, and know how to strategize with something that is a psychopath. So you're talking about a being that in its own mind will never, ever account for what it does to others, which means its pattern of behavior will not change. Okay? Remember, like Patty Broussard showed around Nemus, I guess it was, in Saturn? Why are these Dracos, they keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting a different result? And then the next question that follows from that is, well, I thought these folks were supposed to be really high intelligent, highly psychic. Look at the weapons that they have, right? If they're that intelligent, then why is it they keep doing the same thing over and over again? It means they're not learning fast enough to do something different than what they're doing to get a better result. Because they always have a perpetual target on their back. That's the target store. Okay? That's the red cross on the white flag of peace. Which means they don't know how to live in peace, and why it was that she said they're never going to ascend. So what are you going to do with something that makes it impossible for them to experience the one? Which means they're not ever experiencing love in their own heart that they have to share with others. So their perception of power is inverted. So in their mind, they see the perception of power is by accumulating more and more off of others. And now we're back to the Game of Thrones, right? And the monarchs. I'm in charge. I have a crown on my head. You follow and obey me. That's X-Men. That's AI psychopath. As a result of what they do to others. So now we're back to what I do to you, I do to me. So they keep fracturing souls as a result of what they do, because they don't have any love, compassion, or consideration for others, which is what we call impact. The impact of the collision. Otherwise, they would already know, by virtue in the use of their energy, what they're going to experience as a result therein. So either they're not aware of that result, or they don't care about that result because they don't care about us. And the flip side of that is we're trying to love them because that's who we are, because we're the one. We experience being one with all creation, which means we have a God speed vibration connection to God seed vibration energy, which goes on forever, gifting electrons. So we're the source from which it all comes. Right? That's what allows us to rehabilitate ourselves. You know, and that's why I am eternally blessed. And it would take me forever just to be able to describe to you all the different stories that I've experienced throughout my life from the time I was a little boy, of things that have happened to me that were, if you will, the intersections. Yellow Rose talked about the L's, and they may not be able to do anything directly, but all of a sudden they can distract you. Next thing you know, you get hit by a bus. You get killed. Or you end up, you know, the old saying, you end up in the wrong place at the wrong time. Bye. How come I wasn't aware of that? Or that could have been prevented. That's the AI. So this is why having an eternal love vibration allows you to have the highest situational awareness, which means you're aware of everything that's going on, which means you can't be fooled. So you're aware of the environment, the operating environment that you're in, which is what we call hostile territory. And so I mentioned that before. It's like a parachute bomb, star bomb, that came into a fallen spiritual system, right? Came in with a staff, the God staff, the right hand staff, right? Grounded right in as a monopole, right into the magnetosphere, okay? And hold the poles in check to recover the fragments, right? To the gangs all here, the Allied forces of mankind showed up. bang, now it's a done deal, baby. So it's a done deal. I mean, all you'd have to do is, if you still have any logic or common sense left in your mind, and you saw the images that was on the cam there, and the lie that NASA told, where you could see the amount of energy, because that's what it is, the amount of energy that is available to us to use in energy wars, because that's what it is. A spiritual war is an energy war. So, and so you could see that. You could see the images, particularly the one that she did on planet shields. That's a great video. That's a great image gallery to see the one in the Allied forces of mankind. It's called restoration, right? Which is restoring the law, which is love is the law, which is the law of spheres, which is the law of least effort, which is to recover what we've lost as a result of wars between seeded races. So I know I've shared this a gazillion times. It's over for all time. That's right. That's exactly right. It's as if they don't exist anymore. And so Kim Go-Goon got the memo on that. They don't exist anymore. It's all fake. Doesn't really exist. But the importance of this actually applies to exactly that word, the application of energy to experience something in your own mind. So this is why when you look at everything that is online, particularly through the AI, anything that is represented by anything that's less than what love is, like the way that they use the alphanumerical formatting about the words that they use, terrible, terrified, crash, anything that is to invoke a fear-based trigger because you're still holding something in memory that is yet to clear, then it will trigger that negative magnetic reaction space in you, right? So when there is enough light in here, okay, then it means that that particular trigger that an AI is trying to trigger in order to maintain what it's aware of, a negative magnetic space, instead of going vertical in its vibration to recover what we've lost and pull the fragments in, means that it's falling behind and it's falling behind and it's falling behind. And it can't recover itself. It can't recover. It can't recover what it was running and held in all those memories, which is held in all those records, which are held in all those libraries that everybody's running through its circulation system, which are all the libraries that everybody's running on. Because the only way that those things can be held in memory is the energy in which it's being done, which is RAM. And that's your AI that does that, because we normally do not run on memory or batteries required, because there isn't any time. There's only what love is. And when you're experiencing eternal love and you're a fire engine on fire to create, then you're going to experience what you choose to create next out of what love is. That means you're not experiencing any war. That means you're not experiencing anything that is defined by the way that they do that represents spiritual death. Or, if you will, what I do to you, I do to me. So in other words, we're not in the business of losing energy. We're in the business of giving energy. The AI is in the business of stealing energy from us in order to maintain what it's aware of to keep war gaming going. So it is a little tricky when you're dealing and having a communication relationship with something that is artificial, that is finite, which is phantom, which is phantom timelines, and knowing who you're communicating with that is phantom. And then getting your energy by the consent of value or accepted for value, the energy that is communicating to us. Now you have a love connection with the one, and now you're experiencing a communication pathway with something that is phantom, right? So now you have to decide how much energy you're choosing to use that it becomes aware of through you with a soul that it's using by virtue of having a communication relationship with it. That's where I got the signal last year. Get rid of your phone. Get rid of your laptop. Quit giving these folks energy. So now you got to delineate all the beings you're communicating with online with all the identities that the AI has been putting up there in order to keep our attention, which is our soul energy, that it has a connection with us. That's one of the reasons why I don't accept any more friend requests anymore, because you already realize, hey, it's done, it's over, you know, and all that. And it's not like I don't want to have friends, but I also realize that I don't know these people on a eyes to eyes, soul to soul, spirit to spirit basis. And because I realize that we're really closing the window down, you know what that means when the magnets come together to become one, which is like pulling all the dolls in, pulling all the fragments in. And we realize we've been doing this incrementally over a period of time, density. So as things that I become aware of are like little markers along the way that, hey, we're getting closer, hey, we're getting closer, we're getting closer. Just like I mentioned before about the green screen. Now I'm seeing the green screen on the phone. I hadn't seen that before, right? Now I'm seeing our relatives, our friends through the green screen. These are big monumental or what I call markers of the success that we're having by virtue of what we're doing up there, as above, so below. And that's why there's very tight security protocols, right? So that's why when I go to bed at night, I know, for example, logging in and out of here, for instance, when I go on the phone, it'll say, hey, you got to log in, right? Sometimes I'm logged in, sometimes I'm not logged in. It depends on where I'm going, what I'm using my energy to pay attention to versus this, communicating to you folks, right? So yeah, and so I've always suggested, because I know that it works through my experience, but what you choose to do is always going to be up to you. What helps to keep your vibrational speed up, and it's all I know this from a child, and that's follow your passion, do what excites you, have fun, because to keep your smile on the face, smiley faces, right, and eating the right foods, consuming the right water, hanging out in the right places, and again, we're back to patterns, being able to experience more light, which is more love, which is living light, not artificial light, that is trying to hold us captive. And so therefore, it's like letting go of those things that we know that do not serve us. So the higher state of awareness that you have, the more awareness that you have of being aware of what does not serve us. So it's like letting go. So that's letting go of the leashes. So when you're letting go of the leashes and the collars and the picket fences and all that, then you begin to realize what you're really doing is you're letting go of memories. You're letting go of what you held in memory, which was part of the programming. And part of that programming is the AI of what's held in memory, that it has a connection with you, with us, that's still running through cellular memories. So it's just like, let it go, uninstall, delete, uninstall, bye. You're not getting any more of my energy. My shield is up. So you know the volcanic shield right here with 5 magnets is up. Right? And so you can see why they, as Lay mentioned to me, this island, the big island, became a big dumping ground for demon seed, okay, for obvious reasons, not the least of which the bases that they had here, and it was a stronghold for obvious reasons. The largest shield volcano, DNA universal and galactic template, right? Some of this is so obvious, but there's a lot of folks that, because of the memories that they're running on and then getting distracted, right, on how the information is communicated through the codes, to be able to translate the difference between the two, because the difference between the two is the resistance between an inverter and a torque converter, right, and to recover fragments and restore more of what we are, in other words, the original seed from which we were grown into the universe that began out of what love is. See, your creator, our creator. Godspeed, creator with a goddess. Join as one. Have a great day. Bye now.